Hello. Hello out there, perimenopause. This is a solo podcast, the first in a long time. I haven't done them because I have recorded, I'm not joking, about 12 podcasts. And I started working with a podcast producer to clear the backlog, but I still have to go through them. And because I did them so long ago when I was in my big kerfluster of not feeling very well, it's a lot of work. And this week, I just feel like speaking directly to you. First of all, I have to announce something so exciting. Jennifer Harrington, who's one of the most popular episodes of the podcast, naturopathic doctor working in Australia, messaged me on Instagram to say congratulations. And I looked, and on Good Pods, which is some sort of social media site where people share and talk about podcasts, my podcast is number one in women's health at of the top 100. I almost fell off my chair. Now, my journalist mind is like, okay, well, what's the criteria? Like, how is this chosen? Is it completely random? I don't care. I don't care. I do care because my brain can't stop asking, like, how did you arrive at this conclusion, Good Pods? I'd send them a message, but I'm taking it for now because I have been working my butt off on this podcast. 87 episodes. Well, a couple of them are repeats, but 85, 84 podcasts. It's a lot of time booking and editing and learning and getting more confused and getting a little clarity and then getting more confusion. And it's just been like a masterclass in midlife and menopause. And I can't wait to tell you what I have coming. But that was just a huge, validation is important. And the same day, Elisa Kurliowicz, I hope I'm saying that right, Elisa, who is also a very popular episode of the podcast. She's just an amazing coach and person who talks about learning to get in touch with your intuition and getting out of the bamboozlement of modern life. Anyway, she messaged me on Instagram, just a great supportive girl at the beginning of perimenopause, and said, your podcast is in the top 1.5% of the world. And I went and checked, and there it is in the top 1.5% of the world. Well, you know what? In the world of podcasting, I will take it. And I'd like to say, like, good old journalism wins, because sometimes I do get on here and ramble. I messed that up. Sometimes I do get on here and ramble, but I also talk to a lot of forward-thinking people. And there are very few people in the dozens of podcasts that I've done that I regret speaking to. There's only one. I'll let you decide for yourself who that person is. Anyway, I wanted to announce that. And I wanted to say, if you listen to this podcast, like, it means the world if you rate and review it, if you leave a message saying what you liked about it, if you message me, amcqueen@hotflash.com, amcqueen@hotflashinc.com, and tell me what you think or what you want to hear. It all means the world to me. And I wanted to talk about just sort of what's gone on recently. And I've divided this session into three broad topics. And I don't know how I'm ever going to begin to talk about what's happened in my life over the last year. This is my year when I'm in menopause. I'm sure of it because I'm 3 weeks away from not having a period for a year. And it's about so much more than hormones. It's about absolutely everything. It's about the essence of myself as a human, coming home to myself, finding myself, clarity, intuition, seeing the beauty in life, exponential growth, deep sadness and grief, and just being present for all of it. Rage, loads of rage, and illness. I've been quite ill over the last year, and I am really, really getting it together. So what happened was I went to New York for the launch of the Peri Journal. Oh Hey Peri is a Instagram account. Oh Hey Peri is an Instagram account. Funny enough, I got tied up with Oh Hey Peri in 2020. And in 2020, in the pandemic, in my apartment, a couple of times I posted myself dancing because I was by myself, and it went like a tiny bit viral in my world. You know, my brother and his family posted themselves having dinner and dancing at the table, and then some other friends posted themselves dancing, and then I did it again, and people thought I was crazy, but I mean, what a time that was, right? And Peri got in touch with me. Laura from Peri got in touch with me and said, "You make funny videos. Would you make videos for us?" And I said, "That's so crazy. You're getting in touch because I'm just about to launch this platform, Hotflash Inc., all about menopause and midlife." And she was like, "Perfect." So I did make videos for them for a long time, but that's how that got started. So then Peri did a journal, a daily journal that they've just launched. I'm going to put all the information for this in the show notes. And I wrote a little blurb for it. And then they decided to have this launch event in New York City at the end of June. And I mean, I live in Abu Dhabi, right? So this is not something that I considered going to. And they said that I could join remotely. And I was like, cool. Although I'm always worried about that because I've done those things here in Dubai. And like the person who comes in remotely, it's, you know, you're sort of this floating head and people forget to talk to you and it's super awkward. So I just thought, I'm not sure if I want to do that, but I was going to do it. And then, you know, I was trying not to go home because I'm honestly, I have so many things I want to do with Hotflash and I have a whole other job. Uh, but I just started to think like that little voice that I'm paying attention to more and more and more just said, go, you need to be there. And so I decided to go. I decided to fly through New York City, then fly to Detroit. My brother picked me up and then I went home to Canada for a month. I just came back last week. So that seemed to make some sense. And what happened was amazing. Like I ended up meeting so many people that I've connected with in doing Hotflash that it just absolutely filled my soul. And it was the best thing I could have done, even though it feels like it cost $9 million. Thank you, Peri, got me a hotel room. But of course, once I was in New York, I was having coffees and walking around, and I bought an exercise dress, and you know what it's like. You can't go to New York without spending money. So anyway, that's fine. Working on my money mood. Um, Basically, it was a recorded and broadcast live on LinkedIn panel discussion about menopause, hosted by like my lovely, beautiful friend Rachel Hughes. It was basically the face of Peri. She does all their podcasts. They have an app, and she does all their podcasts for them. And she moderated the event and did so much work preparing. And Laura, who is the founder of Peri, was there. So I met her. I had already met her actually in Abu Dhabi when she was on vacation. And then on the panel, we had just like a range of people, and some of them I knew and some of them I didn't. And it was just like really cool to meet them. I totally bonded with Dr. Sharon Malone, and she's going to be coming on the podcast. She is a delight. She's a Washington, D.C. based OBGYN. And she was Michelle Obama's OBGYN. And they did a famous podcast together and talked about menopause. I got a ton of attention. And I just thought she was literally the coolest person. I was on my phone right before the event started, and I heard someone saying, "Is it really you?" And I looked up and it was Stacey London. I mean, television's TLC, Stacey London was saying that about me, gave her a big hug. I've done a little interview with her. It's ridiculous, but I'm going to put it on social media. Tamsin Fidel, who I've touched base with online. Shelby Harris is a sleep doctor. Amanda Thebe. And endocrinologist Dr. Disha Narang. It was so cool to be there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I embodied that experience. I also met some really cool other people. I met Heidi Rauch from Become, the first sponsor of the podcast. The reason the podcast is here. She bunked with me in the hotel and we had a really funny time. And while I was sitting on the couch in the middle of the talk, I looked and saw Karen Arthur from England, Menopause Whilst Black, and I just felt this like warm, lovely, beautiful feeling at seeing her. It just felt like seeing an old friend. We've connected. She's been on the podcast. It just was the coolest moment. And I knew she was going to be there because she was going to be there for an event the next night that I also went to. And I just had, like, my gosh, just the best feeling looking at her. And the other people I connected with there, was just one person that I want to tell you about. Her name is Yvonne. She came up to me. She is a subscriber to my Substack, follows Hotflash Inc. She was the coolest woman. She lives, I think, in New York or nearby, and came to the event. And talking to her was like the best. Like, she was just hilarious. And she said, I don't know how you didn't know that you had ADHD. I clocked that 2 years ago. And she said she could tell that I had ADHD. And that was so cool to hear, because I don't know about you guys, whoever's experiencing a realization that they might have ADHD. If I ever tell people, the first thing they say is like, oh, we all have ADHD. And it's really like delegitimizing. And I don't think we all have ADHD. We all have problems with our attention. But I mean, if you're experiencing this, it's something else altogether. So I just like adored talking to Yvonne. And there were so many other people, and Sparks and Honey that had the event were amazing. It was a huge, huge thrill. And I want to talk first about confidence, because how did I go to that event? Like, how did I get the courage to walk into that event? I was asking myself that the entire time, on the plane, in the hotel, before we had drinks that night, before the morning of the event. I was saying, how are you doing this? Because my entire life, I've made myself do things like that. If I've been invited to them, I've made myself do it all along, while also experiencing what I might call as like an hourglass within myself, like sort of myself running out of myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then, oh my God, the outfit. Oh my God, the shoes. And then when I see what everyone else is wearing, oh my God, it's not right. And oh my God, my hair. And I put too much makeup on, and I did this and I did that. That's been my entire life. A wedding. Like, I thought I looked nice. There have been barely any times in my life that I have just felt like I look great. I feel great. I know what I'm talking about. I'm on the same level as these people, even if some of them are really famous and rich, and I deserve to be here. And I don't care that I wore different shoes. It was profound. It was a real, like, come to Jesus moment for me. Come to Allah. Come to whoever you might put into that sentence. And I can only say that it's a lifetime in the making, and then definitely 6 years in the making, because, I've talked about, and I'll talk about in more detail, but very briefly in an overview here, my life fell apart at 46, turning 47. I had a terrible betrayal in a relationship. Then I connected with the love of my life, and we decided that I would move to Canada. Eventually, then I lost my job in the sale of my company, and we decided I would move to Canada quickly. Then about 6 weeks later, as we were getting really deep into plans, he bailed. And that's another story I'll tell someday, because it's very interesting. But, that was the end of about a 40-year saga. It wasn't quite the end. There's more, but I was left on the floor, and I had no confidence. Whereas before I had, I always faked it and would often be somewhat dying inside until I started drinking, because there's usually alcohol when you are at events like this. And then I would feel good. And so what happened at this moment that all came together with Peri, that started 6 years before. I was at the bottom, and I realized that every single thing about the way I was living was not working. I wouldn't have been able to verbalize it to you at that point, but I just, imagine yourself laying on the floor saying, like, I have nowhere to go from here. I'm just gonna leave it up to, I'm going to take the first step. But first I'm going to lay here for a month. Then I'm going to take a step of some kind. And I felt like crap for months and months and months, probably a full year. 10 months really bad. These things take time to get over, these major life blows, when life knocks you down and knocks you down and knocks you down. Very, very grateful for that. But even before that, I had started following, social media is great for things. And so even before that, I had started following like really positive people who were older. I think that's key. And we're just not letting age stand in their way. One of them was Will Smith, Pivotal, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tracy McMillan, talking about relationships. I just started focusing on people who just weren't making any excuses. There's no excuses. Age is no excuse. Where you're at's no excuse. And it's like exposure therapy. And I guess I gained a lot of confidence as I built up a freelancing career. And then I was hired to launch a website, and then felt confident enough to launch Hotflash, and have built the confidence from Hotflash. I mean, I just told myself, like, there is no one in that room who's going to have spent as much time as you have researching menopause in the last 3 years. Even the doctors. And I'm not saying I know anywhere near what they know, but I'm just saying no one has put this laser focus into this. You deserve to be there. Now, I've always been insecure about clothes and shoes and all that. And I just can't do high heels. I can't walk in them. And I just decided that I wasn't going to do high heels. I decided that I was going to get a really nice pair of trainers and wear jeans and a blazer and a t-shirt, and get my hair and makeup done. So none of this was cheap, but I got Glam Squad, which they have in New York City, and hair and makeup came to my hotel room at 7 a.m. It's the first time in my life I've ever liked my hair and makeup. The only hair and makeup experiences I have are when we've gone to MAC for weddings like 20 years ago, and I ended up looking like a drag queen. And then I once had hair and makeup for a a photo shoot for Women's Health Middle East, and that was much, much better. But I was very unconfident for that shoot, and so it wasn't the greatest experience. The women were beautiful. The women who came to do my makeup and hair were amazing. And I just felt like I don't know how to explain it. I just was embodying myself. And when I got to the venue, well, everyone on the panel was wearing high heels. Stacey Lennon was on the panel, for God's sake. Like, I mean, she looked unbelievable. She said her dress was from 2007. She was wearing heels. Everyone cool wears heels. I just can't do it. I clawed and clomp around, and I don't think anyone wants me to wear heels. Plus, I'm miserable. That's all I can think about. Sharon Malone, I mean, she looked like she was, if the Oscars had suits, like, she looks like she would have been ready for the Oscars with suits. Does that make sense? I've never seen anyone look so amazing. Head to toe. Everyone looked amazing. Shelby Harris was wearing a hot pink suit with shorts, which was so cool. But I realized I never would have worn any of these things. I didn't know that my room would have a steamer. I wasn't going to wear high heels. I know New York City. I know I'm miserable. I felt like I belonged, and my hair and makeup looked great. And I just felt great. And I just realized that this is the result of work. I have done work on this. I think some people are born with it, but to me, it's been a lifetime of work. So if you're feeling any of the things I've described, where you're just like, normally I feel like a cretin, or I'll trip and fall down. I'm very clumsy when I'm nervous. I didn't really have, like, I had a little bit of nerves, but I didn't have that sinking, failing, like folding in myself feeling that I've had a lot in my life. And I just credit that to a lot of work and exposure therapy to people, and hard work I've done to feel confident to talk about the subject I was talking about. I literally, for the first time in my life, did not have really any imposter syndrome. I just had a sense of like, well, isn't this interesting? Like, isn't this something else that I ended up here now? And I interviewed someone today for another platform, and he said something so cool. He said, when you start to accept criticism, when you start to accept failure, then you grow. And so much of my 40s, I had to be perfect. I had to be above reproach. And I couldn't really grow because I couldn't accept the dark parts of myself and the crappy parts of myself that aren't that great. And I think this process of integration that's been perimenopause and menopause, part of it is having to and knowing I needed to accept those parts of myself. And that's growth. Like me in that Sparks and Honey studio was growth. And God, 53 feels good in that way. Now back to connection. Had an amazing time there. Happened to be that Omashad Bernie Scott of Black Girls Guide to Menopause was also on her tour that she's doing over at a beautiful bar in Harlem and had said, come to this event that we're having. It's drinks. I think it started at 5:00. And it was part of the reason that I decided to do the Peri Talk because it was just such a value added thing. So I went out to Harlem. I met Omi in person. I met Karen again, got to spend some more time with Karen. I got to have a conversation with Mona El Tahawi. I didn't know she was going to be there. I thought she was based in Montreal. She's not. She's based in New York. I've written an essay for her anthology, Bloody Hell, that's coming out this year, I believe. Mona, I love. Mona was one of the first supporters of the newsletter. I stood up and cheered when I saw that she had subscribed to it. And we had just a chat in a chair about a whole bunch of things, really. Like we talked about ethical non-monogamy. She talked to me about how much menopause kicked her ass in the last year. And I said, it's kicking my ass. And she said, it does. And it's not like it clears up the minute you go that year, but it's a lot better. And she really sustained me because it was kicking my ass. It's been kicking my ass. It's the only way to describe it. Another bonus was Jessica Jolie, who is, I always wonder if that's how, I think that's her name, but she's got a third name. But anyway, she is a nurse practitioner, really well-versed in sexual health, coolest person. She's been on the podcast as well. And bonus that she was there. And I talked to her about ADHD because I'm not talking to very many people about it, my ADHD belief that I'm exploring a diagnosis. And I said, I've had so much shame because I'm single and I don't have as much to do as you guys do. And she's like, yeah, imagine if you've got like the family and everyone's staring at you and you can't function. And it was something. And she's just so cool to talk to in so many ways. I was so excited to talk to her. And Omi gave like the most brilliant speech. This person needs to be a politician, but I don't want her to go into politics because I just think she'd be wasted. She's doing important work where she is. But I remember her saying, I'm not a rich woman, but I'm a wealthy one. And I thought, oh my God, that is how I feel. I'm not a rich person. I'm a wealthy one. And after that, I went in Harlem and sat outside a pizza place and ate a piece of pizza. That really upset my stomach, by the way, that piece of pizza, but it was so delicious that it was okay. Another person I touched base with after the Peri talk, I felt in my soul that I needed to take the opportunity to speak to her, was Skylar Liberty Ross, who is someone that I came across on Instagram, just a beautiful soul, talking a lot about confidence and in older women. And we went for a coffee in Bryant Park. She had a beautiful tea. And that was the absolute right thing to do. She was the most wonderful person. I adore her and I hope that you follow her. And I just realized so much about when you get the feeling that you should do something, if it's within your power to do it, I feel like you need to do it. Obviously, if it's not a dangerous thing or it hurts anyone, no. But it was just like, I need to be at that Peri talk. And then I can go to Omi's thing. And then I can see Skylar. And the power of me just following that and then having it turn out the way it turned out just solidifies for me how important it is to get back in touch with that inner voice, the one that we've always had, but we have ignored. We have been taught to ignore it because everyone else seems to know better. And there's always a solution outside of you. That little voice is just like, go. It's just such a sure voice. It's like, go, do this. It'll be good. Do it. It's a feeling almost more than a voice. And boy, I'm not judging it. The connection I felt with these people and the connection that I feel with the people that I have met around the world fills me up. Now, I was exhausted for 2 days, like mentally and physically exhausted because I've never done so much talking. And I was in a low mood on Saturday because that's just the way it goes for me. But I wandered around and I bought a gummy. I bought a gummy. And then I wandered around and I saw a psychic at a street fair and I went to a psychic. I'll talk about that sometime. That was really fun. I've never gone to a psychic before. Sitting in a chair, having this woman tell me things about me that were very accurate. When I created Hotflash Inc., all I thought was, I'm going to do this because I really need to do this. Like I see a gap and I need to fill it. I need to create this information that I wish someone else was doing. I did not imagine that I would meet amazing women around the world. It is a complete shock and surprise. And sitting in rooms with them was just filling me up. And so I just want everyone to seek out that kind of connection, because lately I'm paring down my own like sort of personal friend group. I'm really noticing how I feel when I'm in the presence of people, and I'm seeking out the people that I can have really deep conversations with. I find it really frustrating when I'm in groups where I can't. It was one of the things when I moved to Abu Dhabi that was really difficult, because it's like, oh, I have all these friends, but why am I so unhappy? I think that's a big part of the expat experience, but also you're exposed to so many cool people. So I just want to encourage anyone who is going through any of this stuff that I've been going through for the last freaking 12 years to keep with the basics. That's, connection and seeking out new experiences and working on just exposing yourself to the kinds of people who are confident and who understand how to help you work towards getting that confidence. It is work. And lastly, I think a really big part of getting through this is finding purpose. And I know in my 40s, everything was exacerbated by me. Like the hormonal mayhem of perimenopause that I didn't know was happening was exacerbated by me employing all the same things that I had always done to feel better that weren't working, but just keep trying them, keep trying them, keep trying them. And by unhealthy coping mechanisms like drinking and working too much, and by realizing that journalism, and not realizing, feeling a sort of feeling that journalism wasn't doing it for me anymore. And no wonder, I mean, the daily grind of journalism, and that I yearned for something deeper and the ability to do something deeper. And I was at loose ends for a very long time. And then the universe just chucked me out of my job and sent me on the path of figuring out what I wanted to do. And it's been scary. And I still spend a lot of money on Hotflash, and I'm very worried about my retirement account, but there is no other thing that I want to do. And there is no other time to do it. I'm not going to park it and go get a big job and push this off. I mean, this is now, right? So I'm just standing in the fear of that. It's not easy, guys. Like, I just want you to know that it's not easy. I now have someone helping me. I'm paying her. I had money coming in, but then I lost it. Now I'm seeking other, it's a lot. And meanwhile, I go home and everyone's retiring and they've got a house and a cottage and another house. And I'd say it's too much. I have to tone that talk down. Everyone's got a pension too. Don't got's a pension. But the sense of purpose that I have is so magical. And I feel that I am aligned in a way that I've never been aligned before. And I'm staring down like 3 weeks to be done menopause. I mean, I won't be done. I'll be in menopause, for the rest of my life. But it's all come together. It all came together then. And then, of course, I moved on. But that was magical. The entire experience was magical, and launching Hotflash Inc. has been magical and terribly hard work and very lonely. And this week I got some wins, and that was a big win. And I just want to encourage you to work on your confidence. The people that you see that seem confident are either pretending they're confident, they're just overcoming their own imposter syndrome, or they're like me. they've reached some sort of place where they're like, oh, you can actually feel confident. and believe in yourself after a lifetime of wondering how the F everyone else does it, and connecting with other humans, like-minded or otherwise, and having deep conversations and deep chats. The course of those 2 days, I went deep in short amounts of time too, you know, with these women who are really, really smart, and finding your sense of purpose. And this takes time. This took me years. I was at loose ends from a lot of my 40s, just thinking, I can't leave this. What will I do? How will I have money? What do I want to do? I've only ever wanted to do journalism. It takes time. So anyway, I'm in a huge mess with Hotflash, a beautiful mess. Everything is all over the place, but I am ramping. So get ready. And thank you so much for being here with me and listening to me ramble. And if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a review. And I hope you have the best weekend ever. And I hope you are enjoying your August. And I am just sending you out so much love and understanding and hope. This midlife thing, this menopause thing is a hero's journey. And there are many dark nights of the soul on that path. And they are all worth navigating. Because on the other side is us, the real us, the true us. She's waiting. So that sounded really cheesy, but honestly, that's how I'm feeling today. Love you. Bye.